Hi there and welcome to this video in the IBM Cloud Foundation Skills Series. In this video we're going to be looking at creating access control lists and security groups. So we're going to be, it's just going to be a lab. We're going to go into the IBM Cloud and we're going to show you how to create those things. I'm also going to show you how to actually add rules to the ACL and to the security group as well. Okay, so here I am again in my IBM Cloud account at cloud.ibm.com. And of course I need to then just navigate down to the VPC infrastructure pages. So obviously I'm going to be working with access control lists, I'm going to be working with security groups, so this is where those two things appear in that menu. So first of all, let's go to access control lists, and when that screen loads you'll see that I have already have one access control list there, and this is obviously the default one. So have a quick look at that. Basically what you can see is that by default it allows everything in and it allows everything out. So and if you want to, you can add rules to this, you can change this around as you want to. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a brand new access control list. So to do this, I go back to the access control lists on the menu, and I click here, which is new access control list. So I give this a name. So again, these can be it can be useful to have separate access control lists for different reasons. So if you, for instance, have a network which is for your web servers, or a network which is for your database servers, you might want different access control for each of those. So again, that's a good reason for having separate access control lists and not just using the default one everywhere. So I'm going to call this web tier. Web tier, spell it properly, he said, web tier ACL. Again, it all needs to be lowercase and in the usual format. I want it for London. So again, access control lists, they can only exist in one particular region at a time, but they are for the whole region. So you don't have to worry about having access control lists for particular zones. You can use them across the region. So again, when you create this, you have some default rules, and again the default rules are to allow everything in on any IP address or to any destination, and again it's the outbound is to allow everything out. So let's get rid of the rule that says allow anything in, because I don't want to allow anything in. So let's click add rule. So what I want to be actually doing is to actually allow web traffic in. So what we're talking about here is we're basically talking about traffic which is on TCP, and we're talking about traffic that comes in from anywhere, and we're talking about traffic that comes in on a port of say of 80 and 443. So my inbound rule is allow, because we want to allow this traffic in. As I said, it's going to be TCP, so we're going to leave that as TCP. The source is going to be any, because this is going to be my web tier, so we don't know where this traffic is actually coming from. So in terms of port range, I'm going to give it a port range. So my minimum port is going to be 80, and my maximum port is going to be 80. And then the destination, so this is the destination within my VPC. I'm going to give that any, because it's going to be to any server in my web tier. And in terms of port, then it's going to be to port 80, and again port 80. So the priority, so again, if you have multiple rules, you can set a priority for it, because remember what happens is that it will evaluate the rules, and as soon as it finds one that the traffic applies to, then it will stop. So hence that's why it's important to sometimes get your priority right as well. Okay, so we've set this rule up. I'm going to click save. And as you can see, I've now got that rule there, so it's going to be allow, and it's going to be TCP, port 80, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to add another rule now, because we may well be using 443, so HTTPS. So again, it's going to be an allow rule. It's going to be a TCP. So the source is going to be any, because again, it's coming from anywhere on the internet. My port range is going to be 443, and again, 443 there. The destination again is going to be any, because it's going to be any server within within this particular subnet, and again the port rather we're going to stick with the port range, so again it's going to be 443, 443. So again, it just makes sure that the traffic is actually going to the right port within the subnet. So again, let's save that, and let's do one more, shall we? So I'll show you a slide. Well, let's do a couple more actually. So I'm going to again create an access control list. No, I'm not. I'm going to add a rule, and what I'm then going to do is ICMP. So ICMP is basically ping traffic. So if I want to ping these servers to make sure that they're alive, then I can do that. So I'm going to leave that as any. I'm going to well, what I can actually do is give that an IP address. So what I could do is actually find out what my IP address is on the internet, and I can do that quite easily through an internet browser. And I can then put in my IP address there. So in actual fact, what then happens is it's only me on my computer that can then actually ping the servers that are on this subnet. I'm going to leave that as any for now, but I'll show you a bit later as to how you can actually start to narrow these things down. So again, the destination is going to be any. So what this is basically saying is that I want to be able to ping any server from anywhere within my subnet. I'm going to save that. Okay. So what we now have is effectively 3 rules, and these 3 rules are basically saying allow any IP to ping the server. Okay, it's allow any IP address to connect to my servers using TCP over 443, port 443, and again another allow, and this is any IP on port 80, again using TCP. So those are the 3 rules I've got there. So remember that ACL rules are not stateful. So for any inbound rule, if you want the outbound rule if you want a matching outbound rule, then you need to create that as well. So at the moment, what we've got is an outbound rule that allows anything out. Now that's kind of okay for my purposes. But if you let's say this was a data tier, then what you might want to do, and especially if you were if you were using different ports, your data was actually quite secure. Your data needs to be quite secure. What you might actually have is an outbound rule, which actually lock down where the what protocol it was using, what source it was using, and what destination it was going to. So if you end up with a data tier, then you might want to change your outbound rules. But for now, I'm just going to leave this so that anything can actually come out of this subnet, because again, all I've really got going in is web traffic. So anything that goes out will effectively be web traffic. But if I really wanted to be, as I say, belt and braces about it, then what I could do is actually set out outbound rules, which again were for just these particular protocols and ports. But we'll leave that there for now. So I've created that. All I then need to do is click the Create Access Control List button. Okay, so now you can see that my ACL has actually been created. So again, on this screen, you can see that I've got 3 outbound rules. I've got 1 outbound rule, but I've actually got no subnets attached. So the next stage is actually attaching subnets to that particular ACL. So it's attaching the subnets that I want to use that ACL. So in actual fact, I want both of my subnets to now use that ACL, because they're both web server subnets. So what I do is I click these 3 buttons here, and I'll just go to attach subnets. Now what you'll notice here is that any subnets that I attach on this screen will have their current access control list attachment replaced by web tier ACL. So again, importantly, you can only ever have 1 ACL for a subnet. So if I actually attach a subnet, so I'm going to attach these 2 subnets, what you'll actually find is that these subnets are currently attached to this allow all network ACL. What you'll find is that these will now be detached from this subnet, from this ACL rather, and attached to the web tier ACL. So just bear that in mind. you can't actually attach more than one ACL to a subnet at a time. So just bear that in mind. So I click save there. You can see I'm now getting the connecting to subnets, and if I just refresh the page, you can see that there's 2 subnets attached to the allow all. It's now refreshing the page, and there you go. You can now see that I've got 2 subnets attached to my web tier ACL. So that's creating an ACL and attaching your subnet. So let's have a quick look at security groups now. So if you remember, access control lists are about controlling access to a subnet. Security groups are actually about controlling access to virtual machines, to VSIs within the subnet. So think of this like a virtual firewall, effectively. So again, you can see that I've got a default security group. This one's called 70 tipper Sudoku duplicate skipper. So so effectively, it's giving it a fairly random name when it creates it. So let's go and have a quick look at that. So this security group is basically allowing all protocols from this particular security group. So this is a security group inbound rule. So any server that's in this security group can actually access any server that's also in this security group. This ICMP, so it's basically allowing any ping from anywhere, so any source to actually access servers. So ping is getting through, and here TCP is getting through. So if you're not familiar with the ports, this is actually for SSH. So it means it's allowing you to SSH onto any servers that are in this security group. And again, the outbound rules, it's basically allowing anything out that you want to go. So let's go and create a brand new security group. So again, similar to ACLs, you click New Security Group on this page here, and what you then actually get is you get an empty security group. So let's give this a name. So let's call this Web Tier Security Group. So Web Tier SG. Now I'm going to, so it's obviously this virtual private cloud, and I'm going to give it a resource group name as well. So I'll give that my VPC RG. So that's my resource group. Okay, so again, the interface of this is very similar. It's effectively using add rules for inbound and outbound. Now, if you actually keep this list empty, then traffic is blocked. So by default, everything is blocked by a security group. So that's an important thing to note. What you're doing with the security group is actually allowing access rather than blocking access. So it blocks by default, and then you're opening ports up effectively. So again, think of it like a firewall. So let's do some inbound rules. I'm going to add a rule. So I'm going to allow internet connectivity. So it's going to be a TCP again. So you can see the different rules here again. So I'm going to allow internet connectivity. So I'm going to do it on port 80 to start with, and the source type is going to be any. So we'll leave that at that. So I'm going to save there. And so again, I'm going to add another rule. So again, I need this time to be 443 because again, there's the standard ports. So it's going to be from anywhere. So I'm going to save that. Okay. I want ping in there as well, so I want to be able to ping things. So again, I'm going to add ICMP, and I'm going to choose. So I'm just going to choose any again, and source type any. Now the other thing that I'm going to add here is I'm actually going to add, again it's TCP, but I'm actually going to add in port 22, which is, as I say, SSH. So now what I'm actually going to do is specify a particular IP address for this, because I don't want all and sundry to be able to SSH into my servers. So what I'm actually going to do is just find out my public IP address. So I'm going to go IP address, And you can see there that this is actually my public IP address for now. So I'm going to just copy that. And I'm just going to paste that in there. So basically what this means is that only that IP address can actually use SSH to connect to these particular servers. So I'm going to save that. Okay. So whenever you're looking at this and you see source, and you see source 0.0.0.0/0, that basically means it's global and it's public. So that means any IP address. So just be aware of that. So if you see things like, for instance, port 22, which is for SSH, and you see that it's perhaps at 0.0.0.0/0, then maybe that should ring alarm bells, because it basically means that anybody can access the servers through SSH. Obviously they need to have the credentials, but that's the kind of thing that you probably want to make sure that you've got locked down to particular IP addresses. Okay, so let's turn our attention to outbound rules. So again, at the moment you can see that the outbound rule list is empty, and it reminds you that all outbound traffic will be blocked. So if you don't put a rule in here, don't put any rules in here, then again you won't get anything back out. Stuff will get into the server, but nothing will come out. So we're going to add a rule there as well. And what we're going to do is basically we're going to stick with TCP, and I'm going to allow any port to go back to any destination. Or alternatively, again, I can lock this down if I want to particular ports, but for this I'm basically going to allow anything to in and anything out. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to add another rule there, again just so that ping will come back out as well. So again, an any and an any, and we'll leave it at that. So what we've got there is so basically what we've got is a rule there which will allow ping out, so you can see there's a ping in there, ping out there, and then we've got anything over TCP out, again to anywhere, and then we've got some rules here which lock down what can come in. So effectively all we can get in is stuff through port 443 and port 80, so standard web ports, and that's from anywhere. And then we've got ports 22, which will only accept connections from this IP address, and then we've got a matching rule to say come out. So these rules are stateful, so that's just something to bear in mind. So again, let's click create security group, and just let that screen refresh. Okay, so you can see there I've got my security group, and you can see that I've got 6 rules in there and I've got nothing attached to it. So obviously if you want the security group to apply to something, then you need to attach interfaces. So I'm going to click attach interfaces. And now the next thing is you'll notice that I have no interfaces because I haven't yet created any servers. So normally what you would see is a list in here of all the VSIs, but obviously there's nothing to actually attach because I haven't yet created any VSIs. Okay, so to wrap up then, let's quickly look at what we've now got from our architecture. So what we have is our VPC, which is in the London region. We've got a subnet in London 1, we've got another subnet in London 2. And what we've now created is a brand new ACL. So this ACL allows web traffic, so that's on 443 and port 80. It also allows SSH traffic, so that's on port 22, so it allows that to go in and out. What we've also allowed is ping to come in as well, so we should be able to ping our servers when we've created them. We've also created we also attached that ACL to the subnets, so you saw me do that as well. We've also created a security group, and again that allows web traffic, so on port 80 and port 443. It also allows ping, and it will also allow certain SSH, so it only allows SSH from my IP address. So again, that's quite an important distinction. So this is kind of where we're at the moment. So in the next video we will start to actually create some virtual machines, I think. So as I say, that's it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave any comments, and also if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much, and see you next time.